has from his comedy, from the Fear Factor, from
Not more than UFC.
it translates because look, if you think about it, the followers that he has from when he narrates at the UFC,
Yeah.
whoever he like the fighters, he brings them on to the podcast. Whoever's
Right.
following that specific fighter is now going to follow Joe Rogan because it's interesting. So
Right.
it all comes together and translates a little bit. Okay, so welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. All right. So first and foremost, what I want to do for absolutely everybody that comes on the podcast, plugging any social media. Where can they find you? What do you have? Where can people find you?
So me or the magazine?
Both, personal, business, whatever you want to plug.
So let's talk about the magazine first and foremost. So Jits Magazine you can find on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can find it on our website, jitsmag.com. We have a shop on there, jitshop.com. And we also have our jiu-jitsu retreat website, jitsadventures.com.
Perfect.
So that's pretty cool. And then you just plug in JitsMag on any of the social medias and you can find us.
Amazing. Okay, so to
Yes.
give a little bit more reference, this is Matthew Soroka. He is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in Judo as well, or
Brown belt in judo.
brown belt in Judo. He is one of the teachers at the gym that I train at, and that's why I wanted to bring him on, talk to him a little bit about Jiu-Jitsu, but more so the whole point of my podcast is I want to bring people in that are kind of ambitious with what they're doing, kind of figure their story out. Have you ever heard of the philosopher Alan Watts?
No.
Okay.
No.
So there's
Tell me.
yeah. So he's a late 70s, early 70s philosopher, but he said something that really struck with me, which I'm trying to model my life by, which is if you can find like something in your life where you can get paid to play, where you don't go to
of
work.
course. Well, it's not work anymore anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is jiu-jitsu your version of that? Like
100%. So initially I wanted to get an MBA when I finished university, and then I was always training, but then as soon as I finished, I went to Brazil, and then it just escalated from there. And I always found not a lot of money, but I always found money within the jiu-jitsu realm. It kind of found me. You know what I mean?
So that's okay. So you've been training your whole life, pretty much, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me from when you were a little kid. First, your dad forced you into it.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I wanna.
Since I was 6.
Okay, so let's. I want to kind of go over the entire story from like your beginning of your training, your dad forcing you to when was the transition where you actually started to enjoy it?
Yeah,
and
it's a good question actually. Yeah, well, so I was 6, and my dad sent me to judo in the first place because I was being bullied for like a day. So it wasn't anything, serious or traumatic. But I came in, I complained. My dad's like, "Oh hell no," and he sends me to judo right away. And then, and I remember the first class I come in, and there's this girl. I was 6, she was maybe like 12 or something, and she's literally tossing me right on my back. Like I was winded. First class, I literally got winded like 10 times, and my dad was like couldn't even handle watching it, which I think all parents have to go through at some point when watching their kid. And judo's a lot rougher than some other sports. Anyway, so I stuck with it. I didn't enjoy it for a while. My dad had to pull me by my hair out of the house to go to training sometimes. I would go like 3 times a week. I competed for the first time at 6. I won a gold medal.
6-year-old.
6 years old. Yeah, I competed, and it's intense. Like when you go to people and you say, "Oh, I competed at 6," they're like, "Okay, but you're 6." Like it's hard when you're 6. Like you're not an adult. You can't fathom it. Kids, you're fighting with kids. They're like crying. You hold them in a headlock.
Yeah.
When you're on the ground, it's really intense.
So, is that so? With from my knowledge of jiu-jitsu, with the technique, it's all about technique. At 6 years old, was it still a demonstration of the technique from the competition standpoint, or was it?
Honestly, it's the same way it is for white belts now. It's just a mix of like some technique and like who's stronger, and not all kids are equal, especially at 6, So like if you're a slightly stronger kid, you're gonna have a huge advantage, even at the same weight, right? Because kids develop differently, yeah. So that was that, and then so I kept training. I think from repetition, it became part of like my routine. And then you start feeling like, okay, if you don't train, start feeling weird.
Something was like missing in your day. If you
Yeah, and then when you get a little older, like even let's say early teens, not even early teens, like 11, 12, 13, you start watching stuff like Dragon Ball, and whatever, and that kind of keeps pushing you. You're like, oh, Goku's so strong. I want to be like him. And then you find whatever motivation wherever you can find it.
Hmm.
And then I just started getting into it, and then things got really interesting actually because at my school, so my judo instructor was a guy, this Israeli ex-military guy, and he
Intense.
was coaching at that time like Joel and Carlos Newton and some other guys, and they were all doing MMA at the time. And at that, so we started turning from judo more into like not slightly MMA, but more like ground, focus on
Sorry, I just
ground.
want
So
to clarify. The
yeah,
school started to
the
focus on.
school,
Okay.
was called the Samurai Club. It's like in the Canadian MMA scene is kind of legendary.
All right.
I was just a kid at the time, so I don't have any contribution to that at the point. I was more
No,
observing
but
what
you
was.
were there as
I
the
was
build
there. I
up.
was
Yeah.
observing. Yeah, so like there was a lot of people coming out of there. A lot of the old school Canadian guys. You know, like Joel had his win with Rumina Sato. Then Carlos was killing it in Japan and in the UFC, right?
Wow.
'98.
Early times.
Yeah, and then there was also Mark Bocek was there. I don't know if anyone's heard of him recently, but he was
Some
like in the
people will
UFC.
probably know.
He was like a hardcore jiu-jitsu guy. He fought in the UFC many times. He has some wins. He's like one of the homegrown Canadian jiu-jitsu guys.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so he's pretty sick. So I watched all these guys, and then everyone kind of forgot about judo for a while. You know what I mean? And then at that point, I was already addicted, though.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so was it like a specific moment, or just like you said because it was
No,
part of that
it's a
routine?
lifestyle. You got into the lifestyle, and if your gym is like changing direction, you change
You
with
follow the
them.
gym.
Yeah. And then Joel went, and so Joel's teacher left. Our
Hmm.
teacher, the first guy, left. And then, so this was after those UFC days. And then Joel took over the program, and we were doing like judo with ground. We even did some sparring sometimes, honestly, as like teenagers. We were doing open hand to the face and fist to the body.
And
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah,
addictive
as
part,
like
right?
I still remember getting hit in the face for the first time and getting slapped. I'd rather get punched than
Really?
slapped. It's so like it's demeaning and painful at the same time, you know? It's like a sharp pain right across your face. So, yeah. And then after jiu-jitsu was like getting more popular,
Right.
and then we started focusing, but then Joel had opened a new school at the time. And it was Rev.
So
And then
okay.
yeah, and I was way more advanced than everyone else. I was assistant instructor.
So like you have all these guys that are doing huge things,
Yeah.
going into Japan competing. Joel winning his huge match
Yeah.
too. Like were you still? I know you competed at 6, but were you still competing in at the
Yeah.
same time as them, or
Yeah, I was doing like there was a fight where Sato came back to Canada to do a grappling match against Joel, and that was like the Canadian Jiu-Jitsu Championships in '98. So I was still competing at the time
okay?
as a kid and juvenile. So I never stopped. I
Okay.
never stopped.
So yeah, that literally ingrained into your lifestyle.
Yeah,
Like, that was just.
at that point, it was cool
Do you remember how many days or how many hours you were training in your teen years still? Because I feel so for me, for example, 10, 11, 12, I took Taekwondo.
Yeah.
But again, it was my dad who kind of took me. So
Yeah.
as soon as my dad got a new job and couldn't bring me, I was like, okay, I'm whatever. I'm not going to keep on going.
Yeah.
So how many, like, it was your choice at this point to keep on going. So how often did you go?
Honestly, I remember, and this is now I really have to pull it out of my memory, but I remember it was probably like 3, 4 times a week, or maybe 4 or 5 times a week. But then, like one of the times it would be all day Saturday. It was all day. Like there would be
And
there was like a kids class, but I was like 13 already at the time, so I would stay for the adults class too, and then some people would stay after to train, and then you do weights. Yeah. So.
did you have any, like,
So.
person? Did you have anyone like kind of took you under their wing to help you grow faster, or you were just a part of the
When
kind of the community and you stuck with the classes and
Yeah, no, when I was younger, of course my teachers pushed me, and then I had a couple of the more like hardcore like other students
yeah,
that we all pushed each other. Yeah, and you probably noticed that's how it goes,
that's yeah,
right? You got those other guys that are crazy about it, and then you both kind of just push each other.
that's exactly what I'm experiencing with it right now.
Yeah, 100%.
So okay, and we're gonna fast forward a little bit here because now I want to talk to you about Jits Magazine.
Hmm.
When did you start that? What is it exactly for people that don't know too much about it?
So, Jits Magazine is a magazine, just a lifestyle magazine for people that do jujitsu. So, in the magazine, we included pretty much everything that has to do with the lifestyle of a jujitsu guy. So, it's like eating properly, where to travel, techniques, profiles of athletes, like the top champions and stuff, what they do, with their time. So, it was really cool.
Were you self curating all of this? Like you were grabbing all the articles?
Like, in the beginning, maybe more than half of it, me and my partner Dave, and then after we started kind of freelancing from other writers, because
Oh, okay.
it opened up a window, right? Because people at the time, people were writing all sorts of things about jiu-jitsu because they loved it, and nobody got to hear about their stuff,
Hmm.
and there was no central authority in jiu-jitsu really. So we tried to create something like that. And so yeah, some freelancers and videographers had a chance to showcase their work.
But it started off as an actual magazine, right? Like as a paperback, like through
Yeah,
subscription
yeah,
model.
yeah. It started as a actual paperback magazine. It was like good quality too. It was like
Right.
very thick. It wasn't like a cheap one. People felt bad throwing it away when we gave it to tournaments. They actually, we have people who even collect them. And so people would still email us and be like, "Oh, can I get the box collection of all your mags?"
Really?
Yeah, so it's cool.
So you were like the actual like authority of like the community essentially. Would you
Part
or
of the
building
community.
up
We
to
were
it?
creating our own bubble.
Okay.
Yeah, because of course, authorities were always the top legend athletes and the IBJJF. But from a lifestyle perspective, it was very scattered.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so okay, how did you not necessarily like because it's still it is a business model creating
yeah,
that magazine, and I'm sure there are ads in there as well. You kind
yeah,
of promoted your
yeah,
own
yeah,
products that you might have had.
yeah.
What was that process like? Did you have any business
So
background?
no, I didn't have any business background really. It was all kind of common sense, and
Common
because
sense to you and me, but
no, but it's a process to learn what to do, and then so my partner Dave, he went to business school,
Hmm.
and I was kind of more of the jujitsu fanatic side of it. And then but we've known each other for a long time, so we'd work together, and kind of what I was missing, he'd fill in the gaps, and whatever he was missing, I'd fill in the gaps.
So it's like a
Yeah,
proper
so
partnership.
yeah, and then after it just kind of logic, but now I've learned so much through that process that I'm a very different person since the beginning of starting the mag.
In what way?
I'm far more organized. I'm clean. I'm just cleaner as a person. I notice details. I used to notice details before, but now I'll notice right away. And if someone comes up to me with an idea, I can already map out the next 10 steps in my head, and there's not really from beginning to end, which I couldn't do before.
Right.
I wish I could, but
So,
I didn't.
so you became way more process oriented in terms of
Oh
how the
yeah, like
okay.
a little bit more mechanical, but with the creativity, I always felt like I was a creative guy, but now I had that like organization, and it's a really nice skill. Like so, that's probably the biggest thing I got out of it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's I find okay. One of my biggest things if you don't have like you have to be process oriented,
Yeah.
but you kind of you knew what you wanted to create. Was it a weekly magazine, monthly magazine,
It was quarterly,
quarterly? Okay,
yeah, and then we just circulated for 3 months. But in the process, one of the things that was really big, in addition to the magazine, was our YouTube channel.
okay,
Right? For jiu-jitsu, we had quite a bit of views because jiu-jitsu channels don't get like a video won't get a million hits, but our channel did have millions of views, right? Which is a lot for jiu-jitsu.
did you track that traffic? Like, was it?
Well, you on your back end, not even back end, it's public. Like you can go on
No,
just
yeah, I know, but like in terms of, do you know if it was from a specific like jiu-jitsu community that was watching the YouTube, or was it traffic that you drove from your magazine to the YouTube?
I think
Or
it was like organic Google
okay,
searches. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I'm a big advocate of you. I think every business should have a YouTube channel without a doubt.
100. Well, it's, yeah, brings
100%.
attention,
But a
right?
lot of people don't want to do it. You know what I mean? But
They're
they're like,
squandering their
really? I'm just gonna pay for Google Ads, and then but I'm like, you don't understand. You get a video up on YouTube, it's there forever.
right.
It's forever, and YouTube is owned by Google, so it's like they're gonna help each other.
It's
You're
free
out there.
marketing.
It's free marketing, and the longer you stay on there, the higher the chance of your stuff coming up.
Right.
And I also feel like there's a lot of genres of just for business, like knives or whatever,
Hmm.
there where people make YouTube channels, but the quality's crap. So there's room to go and kind of beat those guys out if you're into that genre.
Right.
You can go beat them out by making better quality videos.
That's really all. You don't even need to know as much. It's just the quality that you're putting
Hundred
into it.
percent,
Yeah.
100%. So I learned a lot of stuff like that, like little
So that's
nitty gritty
because I remember you
details.
told me too. You self-taught yourself a lot of the video
Oh
stuff
yeah,
for the magazine.
yeah. I never. So what I did was, so this is what I think people first heard about the magazine. It was through our videos, not the actual magazine.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So what happened was, I um, I was living in Brazil, and I was training there, but I was there for about 8 months, and I needed to support myself. And this was like the early stages, and we decided to set up the magazine to advertise our travel business at the
Okay.
time. Okay, there's a
Do you want to
lot
explain the travel business?
oh yeah, let's do one step at a time. So I said, there's no how, and we didn't have much money, so I'm like, how the hell are people going to hear about us if we don't have any? And there was nowhere. Forget that. Even if I had money, there was nowhere at the time, like 10 years ago, to advertise for jiu-jitsu.
Right.
It was only Gracie Mag,
Yeah.
and they were charging like thousands of dollars for
Put
one
you-
page in their mag, and I'm like, no one has that money.
And
Yeah. So that's why we started the mag, and then to advertise the mag, I was like, we got to start a YouTube channel, and at the time there was
do you remember where you got that idea from? Like, was it someone that inspired you on YouTube to
no.
make your own account?
So what happened was I was in Brazil and I'm meeting all these champions. They're all there, literally in Rio. And I remember watching this documentary. By the way, one of the best jiu-jitsu documentaries still out there ever is called Art Suave. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 editions of it, and I loved it. I literally, like, as I was when I was a white and blue, I watched it probably 20 times. Probably 20 times I watched it, and I wanted to make my version of that, and I was able to get access to all the guys. So I remember. So our first guy was Rodolfo Vieira. We did a 3-part documentary on him. You can still find it on our YouTube channel. And I followed him right to his area. You know, I took the bus from Rio to an area called Mayer. He didn't. He trained in Mayer, but he lived in another area further out. And I remember this was like my first 6 months or 5 months in Brazil. My Portuguese was shit, and I would take like a subway. The train, not subway. I took a train. The trains were really dirty there, really dirty. I remember like there were like homeless people sleeping on there. I'm sitting there with my equipment, with my Rebel T2i,
Yeah,
and
but
my
jiu-jitsu,
laptop.
you're safe.
Yeah, right. They're gonna, it's yeah, and going through all these places, but it turned out really being awesome. You know, I followed him to his training. Got to know him. He took me to his home. I filmed him eating, talked about his diet,
Wow.
all the gyms he trains at, and people loved it. And then after that, people started hearing about, because we would lead people to our website.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to that in just a second, but I want to just. You went to Brazil specifically to train, or for?
Okay, well, so basically, I went there for a month to start with. I met a girl, and then I came home, and I'm like,
always comes back with the girl.
well, it was a combination. It was the girl, but it was also like the lifestyle there at the time. Probably it's still the same now, but like people were so carefree. You know, nobody was loaded. They didn't care about money. Nobody drove super nice cars. They didn't care about jewelry, nothing like that. They just liked going out, socializing, drinking, training, going out on the beach. And I was so attracted to that I decided, like, I was like 24 at the time. I'm like, fuck this. I'm just going to go there. And I ended up spending 8 months there.
Okay, that's amazing.
I said screw everything, because all my friends at the time, they were going on to their masters.
Dropped it all, right?
Yeah, they were going to their masters and all this stuff and whatever. Started working early, and I was like, no, I can't. Like, this is so attractive. I wanna do this, and then so I did that.
But it worked for the best, because look at what you built from it, right?
Yeah. So and then I ended up back and forth, total of 3-4 years, and then within maybe a year and a half, people started hearing about the magazine. I'd be in the gym at the Novo União headquarters over there in Rio, and like a random guy would walk up to me and be like, "Are you the Jits magazine guy?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm from Germany. I read your magazine all the time. Can I shake your hand?" I was like, "Wow, thank you."
You had your little
because it was a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, man. Because it's like when you start a business, you're not seeing any money for a while,
Right.
and if you're not like, if you don't got a trust fund or something supporting you, you're taking a serious risk. You're really winging it.
It's a leap of faith in yourself, really. It's
Yeah, and
putting yourself forward
yeah, kind of,
to
yeah.
get to whatever financial security that you want to.
Yeah, it's really tough, and it brought a lot of popularity, and also I think in a way it kind of evolved, in a small way, evolved the whole jiu-jitsu scene in a bit, because af- we were pretty much one of the first like North American magazines after Gracie Mag,
Hmm.
and literally right after this, a whole bunch of other ones came about. I don't think it's necessarily because of us,
Right.
but it was just the
But
timing seemed to
you
be
beat
perfect.
the curve
In
if
a
there was
slightly,
that. Yeah.
yes.
So there's a book called, I think it's the 12 Rules of Marketing.
Hmm.
One of the first rules is like either invent a new, be the first in a
Yeah,
category or
yeah.
invent a new category.
Yes,
So you were the first in North America, which probably
yes,
definitely could have
yes.
aided to that success, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I think we contributed a little bit with other companies, and then it kind of like evolved from there. Now
so
you have like Flow Grappling, which is really like,
you mentioned at like with the Gracie magazine, they were selling ad space a lot. Were you guys were selling ad space too to get funding from the magazine, or was it just a passion
yeah,
project?
no, we were also selling space, and we started with like kind of local businesses first, and then consistency is the key. I feel like if you
Hmm.
keep, like, even if things are not like growing right away or whatever, just keep going, keep releasing your magazines nonstop. Same thing if you have a YouTube channel. If you release a video, don't be shady. Release one every week,
Right.
nonstop, for as long as you can. It might take a year or two, but eventually people are going to catch on if you're doing a good job.
You gotta do the good job.
You have to, quality is the most important thing. There's no longevity if there's no quality.
Right.
You might have like a good idea, but then if there's no quality, they might kind of,
Exactly. Like you said, if they'll come over you, they'll be the person in that market that's doing the higher quality than you, even though your ideas.
quality wins every
Yeah.
time. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's a balance of that stuff.
Going back, because you said you
Mm.
followed this guy. Sorry, I forgot his name. I apologize. But he kind of indoctrinated you in Brazil.
Oh, Rodolfo.
Adolfo.
Rodolfo, yeah. Just for anyone, for the new jiu-jitsu people, Rodolfo is like, I think he's a one-time absolute champion and like multiple time. He's the Buchecha before Buchecha. He was the
He's
king
like
of
top of the
jiu-jitsu.
top.
Yeah, and then Buchecha beat him out, basically. But he was a top dog.
How did you
We got Buchecha too. We did a
eventually?
documentary. We did a documentary on Buchecha too, which is, at that point my filming skill became better.
So just
With
that quality went up, and they wanted
Quality
you
went
to
up
know it.
for
Okay.
sure, for sure.
But how did you make that initial contact? Did you already?
Because jiu-jitsu is so small, you can. Oh, now it's harder a little bit
Mhm.
because you have to have some credibility to start with. But back then, you just be like, "Hey, I'm starting out this magazine. Do you interested?" Because they wanted exposure too. There wasn't enough at the time,
Oh, okay.
right? So then,
Did
and then he was
email
just
reach
down.
him
He was
out?
down right away. He was down.
Did you emailed him or
Facebook.
Facebook?
Yeah. And he was down.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu is an interesting industry in the sense that you can go train with the best guy, and you could just.
But what I love about that, he's the top of the top,
Mhm.
regardless of how big or small the community is. The worst, like went out and made a request. You said, "Hey, do you want to be part of the magazine?" You didn't stop yourself and be like, "Oh, he'll never respond." Like you just shot your shot, essentially.
Yeah, yeah, and you have to do that, of course.
But that's what most people
But
don't do.
I kind of knew. I kind of knew that he would respond because I saw the situation that jiu-jitsu was in. That it was still very like, it's
Up in
very
the air.
open. Yeah, yeah. Now it's a little bit harder, but
Sorry.
Yeah. freaking GoPros. I actually started looking into Yi. You ever heard of Yi?
The like action cam yi?
Yeah,
I've seen it, but I haven't really looked into
yeah.
it.
I researched a little bit. They're supposed to be like they call them the GoPro
The GoPro killer. There's
Yeah,
always going to be another killer or something
Yeah,
out there,
I
but
know, I
that's
know.
the innovation. Okay, so then now you don't have the paperback of Jits magazine. It's all on Instagram, right? Or do you still do the paperback?
Yeah, so like in North America, paper is dying, 100%. But if you go to places like Japan or even Brazil, paper is doing well still.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you would think Japan being like a very tech savvy
Right.
country, they wouldn't be into it as much, but it's still big. So in North America, which is our main market, yeah, we switched from magazine to like an online
Is it-
blog. Yeah,
and-
which we attach to our store, so it's kind of a.
And you're what? It's at mid 200,000 followers, man,
Mid 200,000 followers
on
on Instagram.
Instagram.
162,000.
162. Okay, so I'm
162.
pushing up to.
Yeah, it's getting to 200,000. Yeah.
And how long have you been on Instagram? Because a lot of, again,
Was
like you were saying, the
yeah.
consistency is kind of the consistency of the quality
hmm
is what trumps everything.
Yeah.
So how long have you been on that like Instagram grind?
Instagram maybe. Well, not. It's been a while now, like 7 years maybe. Well, pretty
Okay.
much since Instagram started,
So from the
we
beginning.
jumped on right away. Yeah.
And again, like you said, for such a smaller community, that's a huge amount of
Yeah,
people.
but at that we already had our YouTube channel and we had a huge Facebook at the time, so it was very. It
Okay.
was actually quite easy to switch everyone over.
See, that's actually most people say it's difficult to get people to hop platforms.
No, at the time it was pretty easy.
Really?
Yeah, but I think it's mainly because we already had a brand identity.
Okay.
Like people already knew. Oh, Jitsmag, yeah, like
It's just
we're gonna follow.
already.
Yeah, and that's very fortunate, and that's like kind of when you start a company or
Yeah,
you want that. You want that is the number one thing is that brand identity.
the customer loyalty.
Yeah, like I go on Apple Music, and there are brands that do playlists. So that's actually part of their brand identity, though, right? Because like if you like, okay, I don't wear Chanel, but I actually but when I hear like fashion music, I actually like some fashion beats, like it's like kind of good background music for videos. And I went on Apple Music, and Chanel's got this like whole playlist, and I'm sure there's that's very
It's
powerful
interesting.
marketing. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if every brand can do that, but that'd be cool to have
Yeah.
like imagine jujitsu rolling playlist
I mean,
by Jitsmag. Actually,
you know
I
what?
should have done that.
We can cut that out and then just surprise people with it if you
That's
want.
right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, you're doing something that you've done before, but you want to kind of get back into, which is set up these travel trips, jujitsu based.
Yeah.
So do you want to explain what that is exactly and how many times you've done it before, or?
Yeah. So, like I said, Jits Magazine initially started because of the trips. That was the first business I did to basically hold myself over in Brazil with my friend Dave. And that trip was bringing people to Rio for 10 days or 2 weeks to train and tour the city and get into the whole lifestyle and stuff. And that trip got really, really, I wouldn't say, okay, it didn't get popular because we didn't really have the means to push it hard. But the people that did come on the trip, and we did like, I don't know, maybe like 10 of them over a span of a couple of years. People came and had a blast. Like we have guys that met their wives on the trips.
Really?
Yep, still married with them, happily married. So if you want to find a wife, you know where to go.
Just magazine trips?
Yes, yes. And then but then we stopped that. We focused on the mag for a while, and I always wanted to do a resort training trip,
Mm-hmm.
but there was so much going on at the time, and I wasn't super confident with it. So it didn't happen. But now we're bringing it back. So we're doing our Cancun trip for 1 week. Putting mats down. You get to train, and then you can jump in the water right after in the ocean, which for me is a personal like pleasure. Like I think that's a great enjoyment because when you're
Yeah.
training, you're really sweaty. You need to cool off immediately. You don't want to sit there in the foggy room, so you just throw your gi off. Imagine running into the ocean. So that's very appealing.
I love how like every time you talked about the trip, you said that's the dream, that's the goal, to train and then run right into
Yeah,
the water.
I'm actually doing kind of for myself, to be honest.
But that's what
But you
most
need
things.
bodies. I need bodies to train with, right? I can't go by myself.
But I want to jump to that. The fact that you're doing it for yourself, that goes back to like getting paid to play. You're you're morphing your whole lifestyle to fit what you want to do, which is like everyone's like they're finishing their bachelor's degree or whatever, and they're going to a job that they're
Yeah,
gonna hate every day.
right.
But you're doing what you want to do, and they're figuring
Yeah.
a way to get paid by it.
Yes, I'm kind of making my own. I chose the struggle of making my own like system. Like because when you do exactly what you said, you get a job and then you go to work. You're in one type of system. You're in that
Right.
9 to 5, and then what happens is you do your 9 to 5 job. You get really bored because your life is the same every day. Then you're like, well, I should find a girlfriend. Then you find a girlfriend, and then you see her a couple times when you're not working. And then you're like, well, we've been together for 2 years. Time to get married and have a kid because I'm working 9 to 5 and I can only travel 3 weeks a year and whatever.
Mhm.
So I kind of, I mean, I want those things too at some point, but I want to do things on my own terms. That's what it is. It's that choice.
But and you're that's It's so sick
But it's
because
very
again,
hard. It's very hard,
it's not for
and it's not
everybody.
romantic. It's not
Wow.
so romantic. It's like, there's gonna be times you doubt yourself on a regular basis, and then you got that 9 to 5 guy. Now, not that I'm into the rat race or
Right.
anything, like I'm not into that, but you sometimes think like, well, this guy, studied hard and he went to school and he's doing his 9 to 5 and he's very, very, very secure. He probably doesn't doubt himself on a regular basis,
Are
but
you saying that? Do you doubt yourself on like?
there are
I don't want
times when I doubt myself, but then I have friends that are like, no, and same stuff. You're like, no, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? Look what you've accomplished. Keep doing. You're
Well, that's
good
what I'm
at this.
saying.
You're good at this. Keep going.
You have this
Right.
kind of proven track record of yourself of things that you've established to what I would consider a huge level of success already.
Right.
Do you ever look back on that and be like, well, I've done this and this was hard,
Yeah,
which
I have
pushes
some
you?
confidence. Yeah, I have
Okay.
confidence that I can. I have more confidence now that I can be on my own. I have more confidence that I can be on my own more than if I went and worked at a job. If I had a job.
And it's all through your experiences.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of mental exercises. It builds. I guess it's some character. People will develop character.
Right.
I don't even know how it would work. I don't even know how it'd be in an office.
That's not your
Yeah,
personality
and
type.
also
That's
as a
not
business owner, you develop this like kind of like dominance. Not in a
you're
not in a
becoming an alpha
douchey way,
male.
not in a douchey way, but like sometimes like I'll go in, like I would go. This is how I imagine myself in an office. I've never been in an office, but I imagine going in there, and I'm seeing like inefficiencies in the staff, and like this guy's a moron because like why is this guy even hired, and like maybe I'll even criticize my boss for not doing his job properly. You know what I mean?
But do you
This
think
is
you
how I
think
imagine.
that way again because you made your businesses, you've
Yeah,
gone through so
yeah,
you because of those cultivated experiences, now you have a new way of looking at things, right?
yes.
In that case, is there any other things besides jujitsu that you think you would want to apply your learned knowledge to? Or is like jujitsu's your number one, that's your whole life
Well,
all the way up
jujitsu
until
is
you're 80
definitely
man?
what I know because you have to do what you know. You have to do what you know best. So definitely jujitsu, I know best. I've I've spent. You have to think about how you only have X amount of time, right? So you have to
Yeah.
think about how much time you've spent, like what you've spent your time on. For me, it's jujitsu, travel,
And you've merged those two together
and dealing
already.
with people. Like how much time do you spend socializing, right? And jujitsu, it all stems from jujitsu. Eventually, I traveled mainly because I like traveling, but it was also jujitsu oriented. The people I dealt with for the most part were from jujitsu, and of course I have my like high school friends that my best friends that I was stuck with.
Hmm.
But
Stuck with.
yeah, stuck with in a good way. Yeah, so that's pretty much that's yeah. So I don't know. don't think I would apply. I would like to apply my stuff to something else just for like entertainment purposes,
To
just try
see if you
something
were
new.
right.
Yeah, but nah. But travel is it. Travel's what I'm focusing more on now.
Focusing okay.
Yeah, expanding travel.
So this going I guess hopping back into it then. Cancun is the next trip up, but you want to make it multiple like throughout the year,
Yeah,
right?
I'm gonna try to do like different jujitsu retreats, basically,
Do you have
like different locations.
an
I
actual
do.
plan for that?
I
Like,
do. It's a secret for now,
okay.
um, but yeah, we're gonna do all sorts of very exciting trips because I think mixing in general, I think mixing hobby and travel is probably as one of the greatest pleasures you can have. It's very stimulating to be able to travel, but also do your hobby at the same time.
Especially again, going back to getting paid to do
And you're getting
other
paid to do,
yeah.
yeah, and you're getting paid to. I'm just doing what I like, and but I need to some compensation for my time. But I want to take, but I also like sharing. That's the thing. Like I like sharing what my hobbies with people that have the same hobby. So the real purpose of the trips is to pull together like-minded people, which is a very powerful thing
Hmm.
when you have people that like this. You know how hard it is to find people that like the same things as you? Like we're lucky we do jujitsu, we just go to a gym and meet each other. But
Right.
there are people that are into like really nitty-gritty things like watches. Even people are into watches, you
It's a
know
whole tight knit
and
community, yeah.
and that's such a specific thing that if you go and just start talking to a random person about watches, they're going to get bored in 5-10 minutes.
Right.
They're not going to want to talk to you about it anymore. But
You go to the convention where those people
there's
happen to be.
conventions, but there's also like little geeky watch like clubs.
Hmm.
Not like an establishment, but they meet up once a month, and these guys talk more about watches than I would. You know what I mean? It's called Red Bar. Yeah, it's called Red Bar. It's really cool. And so I'm a bit of a hobbyist, so I like all sorts of stuff like that.
Well, no, that's another thing because like the the communities that people have, like you said, if it's small or big, there's still a community. There's still going to be somebody within there that's kind
Right.
of an authority that you can either learn from to build your own business. Part okay, to give you a little more explanation of the podcast.
Hmm.
Like I said, I'm bringing people that I find ambitious and successful, kind of learning what they did. And for you, it was becoming a figure in the community, which is why I keep on coming back to it. So, do you think that all the again, you learned a lot of practical skills from building up Jits magazine. If you were to bring it to the watch community, do you think it would apply almost directly?
Yeah, like I can tell you right now, those watch guys should be doing watch trips, right? I know it sounds ridiculous to some people, but I know that a watch guy would love to, for example, go to Germany and maybe make a whole like, they have the biggest watch conventions there. There's Basel. So imagine they go to Basel for a week and then spend that time going to, I don't know, watch factories where they have like display rooms. They have museums there for watches. But imagine it's all prepackaged, pre-organized. Boom. You know,
Just one payment, and you get the whole
every watch geek
experience,
would
and
be
then
like, I want to go to this.
yeah,
So you can apply that to anything.
it's what most people are not doing, but they should
But
be
you have to
doing.
love. But you have to love it, right? You have to really love it. They do it for yoga. There's
Do they really?
yoga retreats everywhere.
Well, that's true, actually.
Yeah.
I love seeing though the people pretending to do yoga and they just walk around downtown with their yoga mats going to yoga
I
class.
don't even know it. I don't even know it. I know I should be stretching. But like I don't even know what fake yoga or real yoga is. I
So
don't even know.
so
Maybe
and
you
since
can.
you mentioned the stretching though, the physical toll that because I want to just talk more about specifically jujitsu now,
Hmm.
just because for me already in like just under a year, it's changed me a lot. But
Sure.
you've been doing it so much longer.
Hmm.
The physical toll.
Yeah.
How have you been affected? Are you still
So
able to walk around?
so I'm stupid because and I'm realizing this now. When you start getting more into jujitsu, because you start fresh with your body, your body's fresh, right?
Mhm.
Not that many injuries, so you have an extended amount of time that you can train and not weightlift. But then at some point, your body's going to start hurting, and you're wondering why, or your injury rate's going up, and you're wondering why. It's probably because you're not doing weightlifting, and I hate
Mm.
weightlifting. It's so boring. Okay. Um,
But you still do it for
well, I stopped doing it,
this.
and then all of a sudden, you're training harder. You have the mileage on you. You reach black belt, and you start getting like random pains. And I realized it's because I wasn't taking care of my body. I wasn't stretching. I wasn't doing weightlifting, so my joints are weak. The tendons are weak, or whatever it is. And so now I have to like kind of pull back my whole lifestyle and kind of rejig it a little bit and incorporate yoga
Have you
for
already
stretching.
started yoga or?
I started doing it, but it's so boring. It's really boring, and like I don't know, like is it worth it? I don't know because I don't even do the stretches in yoga that I need. I need like a customized stretching program, so it's probably better
Specifically
to
for
do
it.
like mobility training, go to physio.
Okay, and then now I
Yeah.
want to touch on the mental aspects of
Hmm.
jujitsu. How do you have you found like so to give you a little bit when a couple of years ago, one of my life mentors told me, he's like, one of the best ways to cure meekness in a person is jujitsu. There's just something about having a 180, 200-pound guy on top of you.
Sure.
You have to deal with a stressful situation
Hmm.
calmly and effectively and
Oh yeah.
efficiently.
Oh yeah.
Has that translated to you over the course of the years? Have you noticed that, or has it just been, again, because it's been part of your life the entire
Yeah.
time?
I. That's a.
Or
That's
even better, because
that.
you teach, have you seen it in students?
For sure, I've seen it in students, but in myself, I think it's hard to tell because I started really young.
Hmm.
So I think it already developed that in me from an early state. But yeah, I see it in students all the time. Um, kids even, kids like we have a family friend. They brought their kid in, their boy, to do jujitsu. He was getting bullied or whatever. And then like it's been 2 years now he's doing jujitsu. They say he changed completely. Now he's actually like very assertive and kind of like, and they even don't like it to a certain extent. Yeah, I think jujitsu for sure develops a lot of things like confidence, and especially if you compete. If you
It's a
compete, yeah,
bigger,
getting over the butterflies and the anxiety, like that's just a regular everyday, ability you want to have to defeat the anxiety.
right?
You
Just
know?
hopping over that, like,
Oh yeah, it's
That
tough.
that 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 instant pressure, like how much can you recall from what you've been
Yeah,
cultivating? If you want to actually explain, because I haven't competed yet, I do want to compete. I
yeah.
think a bunch of us from Rev are looking at, I think, the Open in May or
Okay.
whenever it happens to be.
Yeah.
What's the process? Like for again for listeners that don't know, like how do tournaments work for jujitsu?
Okay. So for jujitsu, what do you mean in the sense that they work like logistically or like mentally? We're talking about
So right now for the
mental process.
actual logistics, and then
How
so
the
you want,
tournaments work? Well,
yeah.
you sign up for your weight, your category, and everything like that, and then you go to there's the date for the tournament, but then leading up to it, you might have to cut weight, right? You might have to some people like to they get a little anxiety over who they might compete against because they list it publicly, right?
Oh, do they actually?
Yeah, and then they go and they research, they try to find their videos and stuff and try to size them up, and then they might underestimate, oh, this guy sucks or whatever, which you should never underestimate your opponent. Yeah, there's stuff like that. And then there's the day of, and then you're eyeballing who you're competing against. You're supposed to chill out, but people just kind of like,
And see, right? They
yeah,
just
some people like piss like 20 times, like nonstop, from the anxiety. But then
yeah,
I think once you step on the mat, you feel fine. You
just
feel
all
fine.
goes away.
Yeah. But logistically, it's a very simple
Oh, okay.
process. They weigh you in. So back in like many years ago, they used to weigh you in the day before a tournament.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but now they do it right before the match. It's been many years though, so you can't even cut water weight. You know
It's
what I
just
mean?
whatever
Because you
you
don't want to
want that
get
day.
go,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you don't want to go exhausted into the match.
But again, that build up, knowing that you're going to compete, cutting that weight, and putting yourself through such a difficult challenge.
Mhm.
That's a representation of the sport in itself, right? It's
Yeah, 100,
knowing what you want to do.
yeah, for sure, and it's unbelievably difficult. And when you do overcome it, especially multiple times, you're a different person. You will apply that to other parts of your life.
How have you,
Work.
for
Oh,
you personally, how have you
business is great for business.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a video. I forgot the guy's name. He's this military guy. He for the Instagram channel CNBC Make It. So I think it's like a millennials entrepreneurial kind of page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which you probably like. And he was just talking about how like he does jujitsu and it's great for business, and it develops assertiveness and creativity and
Well, there's so many successful people out there that have like accredited so much to jujitsu, right?
mhm.
Like there's Anthony Bourdain was super into it, huge for jujitsu.
Yeah, Anthony
Uh,
Bourdain. You know why I also think it's just the adrenaline
the
that you get. Oh
adrenaline.
man, yeah, people go crazy. Like you can go into jujitsu like depressed. Actually, I have a great story. I have a great story. This is
Please
this is a
tell
really
it.
good story. So when I was in Tokyo, there was a guy. He was living there. He's an American guy, and he was going through like a very serious like depression and whatever. Didn't want to leave his home, but the one thing he left his home to the only reason he left his home was to do jujitsu.
That's awesome.
He left to do jujitsu. Like he didn't even think about it. It was like automatic. He would just get up
Just,
and go train and come back, but he wouldn't leave for anything else.
like you said, it just became part of the day. That was like something that he had to
Yeah, and
do,
that's
right?
testament to how powerful jujitsu is. And I think jujitsu still is one of the greatest practicing sports in the world.
Okay. So that was actually something I wanted to get into. If someone
Yeah.
wanted to learn, so when it comes to like a street fight, for example,
Mhm.
being the most deadly opponent,
Mhm.
jiu-jitsu you would put top on up there, or Muay Thai,
For st- for
boxing,
a street
kickboxing,
for
like
a street fight,
self-defense.
yeah. So okay, just for the record, I've never been in any street fights, just because it's just never happened. Um, but
So, but you've been in altercations, have you not? Did you feel like
like
you could?
one in my whole life. Like I've just been lucky. But I'll tell you from a theoretical standpoint, when you get in a street fight, and obviously I've thought about this for many, many years, um, multiple attackers, dealing with multiple attackers is a whole nother story. You know what I mean? If you get
Mhm.
jumped by like 5, 6 guys and you know jujitsu, your best thing to learn is track and field and just run, right? Um, so but like a one-on-one street fight, like some guy's calling you out, it's like a schoolyard brawl or whatever, and the guy doesn't know anything, he's in big trouble for sure.
Have you done besides judo?
I did Muay Thai for
You did
like
Muay Thai?
3 years. I did boxing too, but I kept getting injured. I kept kicking, just the impact and stuff. And, you're sparring and kick the guy the wrong way with your ankle and it hits their shin.
It just
And I was
messes you
getting
up.
more injuries there than jujitsu. I'm like, why the hell am I doing this? I should be doing jujitsu. I should be spending my time on jujitsu.
And it, look again, it changed your life completely for it. One other thing I wanted to touch because a lot, I'm assuming a lot of my listeners, this podcast will be the first kind of introduction to jujitsu.
Hmm.
Getting a black belt
Hmm.
is not an easy thing. It's
No.
you want to go over the amount of years per belt it could possibly take for someone on average.
Yeah, on average, so it seems to be that at most schools, people get so per belt. So first of all, there's the belts. There's white, blue, purple, brown, black,
Mhm.
and then there's 4 stripes per belt. So for each stripe, it takes about 6 months to get a stripe. Most schools do 2 gradings per year, but sometimes people might get like at a random point they might get a stripe, and so that's 2.5 years per belt.
It's
Okay,
and you
that's
get
a long time. That's like eight,
that's
10 years
excluding if you
plus.
get injured, you're out for a month or 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. And then the injuries, you have to do the injuries. You got to train smart. There's so many little nitty gritty things, and it's all trial and error. So it's very hard to
Do,
adapt right away.
do you think so? You have those gradings, those 6 months gradings,
Hmm.
and this is just I guess more me personally like selfish question, but
Yeah. Okay. Go for it.
through the training and coming to the classes, could one get to that black belt just by the classes, or does it not take like extra
Like private lessons and stuff,
like yeah
or
the
or
private
just or
lessons
travel or the
or
travel.
I'm more thinking of like because I've heard once you get to purple belt or brown belt, you kind of have learned all the that there not that all that there is, but the basics enough where you can start to get creative with it. You can kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
develop your own.
I agree. Yeah.
So at what point, like, is it classes enough to get you to that belt level, or is it like just a timing thing to get there? Does that make sense? I don't think I'm
I
questioning
think
this.
I think classes on its own to get to black belt is not enough. I think training at one gym, like you can have your home gym, but you have to do more than just classes. Like you have to you have to you have to visit other schools once in a while. You have to compete, to because what's the point of learning jujitsu if
You're
you're
facing the same 12
the same
people.
12 people all the time and you want to know how your ability is against a new opponent and your ability for improv. That's what jujitsu, you have to improvise because you're rolling with the same person over and over again. You're kind of getting into the same positions. You're
Hmm.
not trying new stuff. The guy's probably using the same guard all the time. He's not just going to come at you with a new guard and be good at it. So you got to go to other schools or travel, whatever, and see what other people have to offer, and that's how you get good.
And that's the steps that you
Yeah, you
took as
can.
well,
The
eh?
same monotonous training is not going to get you all the way to black belt.
Interesting. So the other thing, because I've heard of and have like through YouTube videos and stuff,
Mm.
people they just go and they make their own, like you said, they just go and make their own gym. They rent out a unit or whatever. They put down their mats.
Yeah,
It's basically hindering their training. They're not achieving what they possibly could.
by having their own little like
Their own little
garage
thing.
gym.
Yeah.
Well, no, that has benefits too, right? Because you want mat time as well. You want to train as much as possible, but not limit it to the same partners.
Okay. So
Yeah.
just it's more of yeah. Okay.
That's
Then
why there's
fair
open
enough.
mat at gyms. They have open mat because both people, that gym is inviting others to come in so that they can test their skill out in a non-competitive
Oh. So, yeah,
environment.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, because like you could be training at the same gym. Okay, you get a black belt eventually training at that one gym. You're only gonna be a black belt against like those
Those that's
styles,
specific.
and then some blue belt comes in who plays a guard you've never seen before, and you want to be black belt. At least you want to be able to defend all the positions, but you don't have to use all the
Right.
positions.
That's what I find fascinating about that is the styles. So a
Mhm.
while ago, I think it was my fourth month in. I was in Montreal for a week for work, but me and Oliver, we still went to a Montreal gym. There's just a
Yeah.
gym. We went there every day. We were there. We went for the mornings, and just the way that they were training, the way we were rolling with them, they did a lot of like inversions, which we don't really
Right.
do too much
Yeah,
of.
which is like what I guess the teacher's like
Just
favorite stuff, and they're
yeah,
just doing it. Yeah.
and it's so interesting that everyone's kind of learning the same ideas,
Hmm.
but where they're deciding to kind of like put their
100%.
attention to is
Yeah, 100%. Because in jiu-jitsu, you'll get into a position and you have choices. once you hit like purple, brown, black, you have choices,
Right.
and then it's up to your personality to decide what kind of move you want to do. And personality does matter in jiu-jitsu,
I've heard a saying
by the
that
way.
you can get to know someone
Yeah,
by rolling with
I
them.
have no doubt. I have no doubt. If someone's aggressive outside of the gym, they're probably going to be aggressive on the mats. If someone's sneaky, they're going to be sneaky on the mats. If someone's calculated, they're going to be calculated on the mats. Like, I have no doubt. Almost for sure. I don't
What would-
see an aggressive guy that like some asshole aggressive guy on the gym on the street coming into the gym and just being like super passive, and I don't see that.
no,
No,
never happened
no.
in your ears.
I challenge people at their gyms. Okay, I challenge people at their gyms to go and um, find somebody and make that connection.
Make that connection.
And if you pay attention to it, you'll see it's true.
I've noticed it a little bit, but I don't know. Like I told you, I got super addicted to it really quick. Like
Mhm.
I'm especially because I had my like mentor Oliver has
Mhm.
been helping me going a lot.
Yeah.
So I go 4 or 5 times a week, and like you said, you do kind of get used to people, but at the same time, you also mentioned the fact that everyone's kind of pushing each other up.
Yeah.
It's this weird, never-ending thing. It's like as soon as you get like one up on someone,
Yes.
they're also coming up with you. So you're like, oh, I'm doing better, but they're also
And
still
and
with
that's
you.
good, and that's good, and that's fine. And you should do that, but like that can't be the only thing, right? You have to still test yourself against other styles.
Which I think I'm excited to do
Yeah,
through.
you want to get caught, you want to get surprised, you want to get beaten up.
That's enough. Okay, coming in
Hmm.
and getting smashed, and
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu is not for someone who's a very egotistical
Nope. And
person.
a lot of people leave. You know those guys, um, those egotistical guys, probably the dudes that are like all jacked and whatever. They come in, they think they're the best thing ever. They come in, they lose to a girl or whatever. They never come back.
What's that?
Every gym has seen that at some point. Like the guy that comes in, gets ego can't handle it, and just leaves because they thought they were amazing.
How many through your years? How do you see like what's the transition of like white belts that like stay and for like how long?
There's some sort of there's some sort of phrase or some saying that like every time you switch to a belt, it like the numbers get cut in half.
Oh, really?
Something like that, or even more than that. Like the numbers are even worse. Yeah,
It's kind of like
but
a revolving
yeah,
door of.
yeah, it would be cool to know the exact stats of like how many people from white belt end up going to black.
You should start taking a mental
I'll
aspect.
tell you one thing though, since I started like way back when, as a kid, okay, of the kids that I started with, none of them that I know continued with judo,
Really?
jiu-jitsu. And I'm pretty much the only one of that stock that got to black belt.
That's
Yeah.
that's. But okay, so you've heard the saying "path to mastery," like 10,000 hours or like 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know if the numbers are true, but you
But
gotta.
something
It's got to be like
dedicated to it.
non. It's got to have to be nonstop,
So,
daily.
is there enough? Okay, to get to the black belt, would you say you're an expert at that point, or like is brown belt?
Yeah. So
Expert?
I think what a black belt is, because I got the black belt. My teacher gave me the belt, and he goes to me. Uh, he goes, so you now you have to work on strategy. You have to formulate. You have to piece together all the moves and find that now it's really chess. It doesn't actually. It becomes chess really when you get to black belt, because then you're able to move your pawns properly,
So
right?
you actually get to
When you're a
understand
white
how
belt, you don't
to.
even have all the pieces on your board yet. You know what I mean? And you're moving them like your hand's shaking. You can't even move it from one square to the other, right? But at black belt, you have all the pieces already on the board and you're able to move them confidently. But then you still have to have a strategy to beat the other guy. So just because you can
Mm.
do all the moves and you have all the pieces doesn't mean that you're going to beat the other guy.
So it's almost like getting to black belt is getting the education or getting the tools.
To have the basics of your own game.
Wow. Okay. How do you teach that? Because you've been teaching for a long time now. Like
you can't like you can't teach it all. There is a very big self development
okay.
phase, and you have to. I can't tell you this is going to be your style. No, I give you the menu, and you choose what to eat.
For yourself, what was that experience like? How did you kind of figure out what you
So
like to use or don't?
honestly, for me, because from an early age, it just kind of some things just stick. And I'm sure you've had these experiences too. You're rolling, and all of a sudden something just worked, and you're like, oh, it worked. Your body remembers it, your mind realizes it, and then you continue it, and then you just keep going, and then you build on top of that.
So just through the repetition of finding out that muscle memory that
Yeah,
makes
the
sense.
muscle memory, and then also mentally, like what works for you.
Okay. So one thing that I'm kind of, this is kind of just the wrap up phase now of
Okay,
the
sure.
podcast. One thing that what's one piece either of advice, either from jujitsu or from the business, that if you were giving to someone, kind of one piece of advice that you found in your life that kind of revolutionized yourself, or like one quote that you might have that you kind of found changed you for the better?
I
Deep
would like to
question.
say, yeah, it is deep. I would
Yeah.
like to say believe in yourself and stuff like that, but that's not true because some people are delusional. So that doesn't work. They'll believe them in themselves and they'll do something stupid and waste their time. I think the most important thing is, people say you have to keep. This is one thing I could have done differently, is maybe focused a little more. And I know maybe you guys don't want to hear this, a little more on the money aspect. But at the end of the day, it's important to do what you're good at. If that happens to fall in line with your passion, then great. But if you're not good at your passion, you should definitely not do it like full time. Okay? And then, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, follow your passion, if you believe in yourself, you'll make it." No, because some people are just bad at their passions, and and the people are doing. If anyone's supporting you like that, it's kind of, they're doing the wrong thing. Like, you have to be honest with people. If you think they're doing something and they're bad at it, they're not going to succeed.
Right.
And that's why a lot of people do think. Sometimes people are good at things they don't like. Actually, probably most people do that, right? How many people hate their jobs, but they do it because they get paid, and if you're getting paid, you're probably doing it well. You know what I mean? So
enough to get paid for it. Like,
enough to get paid. Exactly. So that's probably the most realistic piece of advice I can give that I've learned so far, is only do what you're good at.
Yeah, especially like exactly because of how limited your time is in the world. Like, how long, if it's something physical, especially.
Yeah.
How long are you gonna be able to do that? So capitalize while you can. That's crazy.
Because for business wise, I'm talking about advice. Yeah.
Well, because I feel that if you can become obsessed over something enough, if you're not good, you can learn how to be good.
Yeah.
But again, it all depends too on where you are in life. Do you have to support family? Do you have to pay for the mortgage and stuff, right?
That's exactly it. And a lot of people run into that with jiu-jitsu. They want to train all the time and whatever, but you can't. That's why a lot of people that do well in jiu-jitsu are usually people that have the time to train, either because they're very wealthy, or because they're not wealthy, like they have nothing else to do.
Well, and then that just becomes their,
like not in North America, like other places, like in slums or whatever. The jiu-jitsu actually is the only thing they have.
It's school jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, because like for example in Brazil there are some government programs, like some charity programs that are run for the kids over there, and it helps them, keeps them on drugs and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know.
Yeah. Oh, but there's a lot of stuff out there. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. That's what the podcast is for,
yeah,
to learn about all
there's
this
a lot of interesting stuff out there for sure.
That's not, so. Just again to finish wrapping up a little bit. Is Cancun the next trip that you're putting together, or is there?
Yeah, so it's Cancun. We have another one coming up. If you're a jiu-jitsu person and even if you wanna try jiu-jitsu for the first time and do something completely different with your life, you can come on jitsadventures.com. So JITS Adventures. And then if you're in the Toronto area and you wanna practice some jiu-jitsu, do some private lessons, my website is sorokajujitsu.com.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Having you come on here, man.
It was a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.